The air was heavy in the courtroom, the kind that curled around your chest and wouldn't budge. A lock of hair tumbled across Robyn Brown's face as she stepped up to the witness stand. She left it there. Her eyes were fixed straight ahead, cold and smoldering. The room, though packed to the gills, was quiet enough to hear a pen fall to the floor. Cameras whirled, court sketch artists hastened to lock in the moment. Nobody saw this coming. Not like this. She used the family name to smuggle drugs. The words were shaken out, but every syllable landed hard, like a bullet. Robyn's voice cracked at the finish, but the fury in her eyes never faltered. The courtroom gasped. Reporters' pens scritched wildly, and Kody Brown, sitting in the gallery next to a shaking Janelle, blinked as if he'd just been punched in the stomach. Meri Brown sat frozen across the room, her hair precisely in place, her lips set in a tight line. Her face was inscrutable, mask-like, icy, almost too serene for what had just been uttered. "This isn't just betrayal," Robyn went on, voice now firmer. "This is a crime, and I will not let her destroy what's left of our family." Each head in the courtroom shifted slowly toward Meri. She didn't flinch. The judge leaned forward on the bench, adjusting his glasses with a grave look. "Miss Brown," he said, addressing Robyn, "you understand the severity of what you're accusing here today?" Robyn nodded, slowly. "Yes, Your Honor. And I didn't do it lightly. I held this in for months. I prayed. I begged her to stop behind the scenes. But what she's done has the potential to ruin our name, our children's lives, everything we established on that show. I had no other choice but to come forward." Gasps rose up from the rear of the courtroom. Some of the Sister Wives fans who had scored public seating covered their mouths in shock. It wasn't just rumor-mongering on the tabloids anymore. This was actuality, actualized under oath, within a court of law. Meri's lawyer remained seated, scribbling something on a yellow legal pad. Meri didn't look at her attorney. She didn't look at Robyn. She kept her eyes on the judge. Kody Brown, the once proud patriarch of the plural family, looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. His hand clutched the wooden bench in front of him, as if it might keep him grounded. "I don't believe this," he breathed to no one in general. Christine, sitting quietly behind him, rolled her eyes and shot him a sideways look. Her lips pursed. She had remained silent all morning, observing it all like a replaying video with a feel of sadness, but something else harder to classify. Suspicion, perhaps. Or was it confirmation? Janelle spoke loudly in his ear. "Did you have any idea about this?" Kody shook his head blankly. "Nothing. Nothing at all." The prosecution rose to their feet. "Your Honor, we plan to introduce documented correspondence, business records, and warehouse videos linking Miss Meri Brown to several shipments of controlled substances across state lines, all processed under the official business name Brown Family Essentials, registered in Flagstaff." The judge cocked an eyebrow. "That's the name of the family's public wellness brand, right?" Robyn shook her head again. "Yes, sir. We developed that company on our TLC viewers. We employed it to sell peace, harmony, healing. And she used it as a front for illegal operations." One of the jurors gasped out loud. A reporter in the back muttered, "Oh my God," as she wrote furiously. The prosecution passed over a sealed folder. Within are customs reports, drug testing analysis, and 2 statements from ex-delivery drivers, who say they were paid cash and instructed not to ask questions, all linked directly to Miss Meri Brown. The judge opened the folder, his brow creased as he read the contents. Then Robyn addressed the gallery. Her former co-wives. "Christine, Janelle, you knew her. You trusted her. I trusted her. We accepted her back, when she was suffering. And look what she did." Christine glared but remained silent. Janelle just turned away, fists twisted tightly in her lap. This was no longer a family feud. This was a hurricane no one foresaw. The judge breathed heavily. This case, should it be proven, has serious federal repercussions. Drug trafficking is not something that will be taken lightly by this court. He glanced over at Meri, who remained unmoving. "And Miss Meri Brown, is there anything you wish to say at this time?" The courtroom was silent. Meri rose. She did not glance over at Robyn. She did not glance over at Kody. Her eyes locked squarely on the judge. "Yes, Your Honor. she answered, speaking low and steady. I've got a lot to say. But not at this time. At this time I'll just say this. I did not do what she says I did. And this, all of this, is a masterfully crafted lie. Another wave of shock swept through the courtroom. The judge slowly nodded. Very well. The court is now in session. Prosecution may proceed with opening arguments. As Robyn descended from the stand, her legs stumbled for a moment. Kody reached out to catch her, but she pushed him away. For an instant, her calm facade cracked. Fear? Guilt? Determination? Nobody could tell. The trial had yet to start, but the emotional devastation was already spilling over. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, it was getting crowded. Sister Wives fans, protesters and paparazzi filled the courthouse steps. News vans clogged the street. A local reporter stood in front of a camera. A beautiful day here in Flagstaff, where Robyn Brown just accused Meri Brown. Yes, that Meri Brown from the popular TLC series Sister Wives, of trafficking drugs. The courtroom is in an uproar. We'll have updates for you live. Inside, the tension just got thicker, because behind every accusation lay a secret nobody could see coming. The courtroom was still buzzing with shock over Robyn's initial testimony. But what was said next turned whispers into pandemonium, not only for the crowd in the gallery, but for all members of the Brown family. The prosecution stood up with quiet assurance. He had on a black suit and silver tie, and strode forward with the kind of quiet strength that came from knowing precisely what bombshell he was about to drop. Your Honor, he continued, we now enter into evidence a collection of electronic correspondence, warehouse transaction records, and photo surveillance, all linking Miss Meri Brown to a series of illegal drug shipments routed through the Brown business establishment. A stir ran through the courtroom. The judge, his expression stiffening, nodded. Proceed. The prosecutor clicked his fingers, and a big screen went on behind him. The first photo popped up, a fuzzy snapshot of a warehouse surveillance camera, dated 2:12 a.m., February 13th. A woman hidden beneath a hoodie, but easily identifiable by the way she walked, the way she stood, the fact that she was there at all, stood next to the rear of a rented cargo van. She packed 3 big boxes, each marked Brown Family Essentials. That's Meri Brown, the prosecutor stated matter-of-factly, caught on camera personally loading unmarked containers into a van with out-of-state plates. No business records show a shipment being scheduled that evening. No documentation. No legal manifest. Robyn whispered softly. Kody now sat up straight. His brow nodded in incredulity. That can't be her, he grumbled. Christine watched the screen. That's her, she said. That's the way she walks when she's nervous. Then the text messages. The prosecutor tapped again. A series of text messages appeared on the screen. The sender? Meri Brown as 72. And Brown as 72. Keep the labels vague. Just print natural remedies or herbal mix. No one checks that stuff anyway. Unknown contact. You sure it's safe crossing into Utah? And Brown as 72. I've done it 3 times. We're fine. It's not traceable. Another collective gasp. Meri's lawyer jumped up at once. Your Honor, objection. These messages have not been verified, and my client has not acknowledged any connection to that number. The judge looked over the screen. Objection heard. The court will demand forensic examination of the sender's identity, but for the moment, the jury can go ahead and look at this provisionally. Robyn was recalled to the stand. Her hands were intertwined in her lap. Her voice was thready, but firm. The evening I realized something was amiss was the night she had lied to me about a shipment. She breathed in, her eyes distant, as if recollecting. It was around Christmas time. We were running behind on orders. I went out to the warehouse to pick up a bunch of packages which were supposed to have already been picked up. And that's when I saw her standing there. Alone, in the dark, with the lights turned off. The boxes weren't our normal boxes. They were wrapped with black plastic tape. She was surprised, nearly scared when she saw me. She told me it was a surprise shipment to a customer. But that evening, something just didn't sit right with me. The prosecutor nodded. And when did you report your suspicion? Robyn looked guilty. Not until 2 months afterward. I didn't want to believe. I thought maybe I was paranoid. I mean, she was family. We shared everything. How could she? Her voice faltered. She dabbed at a tear. But then I noticed the bank activity. A new paper came on screen. a banking report of more than $47,000 deposited into an account listed under M. Brown Holdings, entirely independent from the official Brown family business account. Robyn's tone sharpened. That money never ended up in our business. It was sent to her, and it arrived pretty soon after those off-book shipments. Meri sat stone-faced, but her hand gripped the armrest of her chair tightly. The camera cut close to her knuckles, white and shaking. Her lawyer spoke softly in her ear. Meri didn't react. Kody glanced over at her. His mind ripped between shock and disbelief. I don't understand, he muttered under his breath. Why would she need the money? She had her book deal, her bed and breakfast, her fans. Christine replied without glancing at him. Sometimes money isn't the motivation. Sometimes it's revenge. On screen again, additional warehouse scenes rolled. In one scene, Meri could be seen speaking with a man outside a U-Haul truck. The truck was back to a New Mexico company, but the driver had no official receipt. When asked, he explained Meri paid in cash. Another witness, an ex-worker of the warehouse, testified under oath in a signed affidavit. Meri Brown told me not to open some packages. She told me they were off-the-books orders. When I questioned her, she told me to drop it or lose my job. Meri's attorney stood up, vehemently objecting. This is all circumstantial. None of this establishes what's in the boxes. We have not seen tests from the lab. We have not seen shipping labels. For all we know, this is just paranoia and family stress turned into a witch hunt. The judge nodded slowly. That's understood. The court will grant defense time to cross-examine witnesses. But the trend here does give serious concern. The prosecution proceeded. To clarify, we do have lab results. The screen once more shifted. There was a final report, this time signed by a Flagstaff police narcotics officer. Within one of the boxes seized by law enforcement in Utah, following a tip-off, there was a sealed plastic bag full of more than 3,000 capsules full of unlicensed stimulant drugs. No approval from the FDA, no legal distributor. These were shipped under the Brown Family Essentials name, labeled as Herbal Energy Blend. But they were not herbs. These were synthetic performance-enhancing drugs. The room froze. Even Meri's lawyer seemed rattled now. Robyn turned to the judge. I don't know what she was doing or why, but I do know what I saw. I know what I experienced. She lied. She touched things she wasn't allowed to touch. She stole the reputation of our family, and she used it to sell poison. The judge scanned his notes. Then he glanced at Meri, across the room. Miss Brown, this is your last opportunity before cross-examination. Is there anything you would like to say? Meri stood at last. Her voice was untroubled, too untroubled. These individuals desire a villain. I understand. They desire drama. They desire scandal. And they know that pointing fingers at me provides them with both. But I'll say it again. I did not sell drugs. I did not transport anything illegal. And when this is done, the actual liar will be revealed. Outside, chaos was escalating. #Team Meri and #Team Robyn were trending on social media. TLC fans swarmed the courthouse gates. Speculation ran wild. Was this Meri's revenge? Or Robyn's power play? Was Kody involved? Did Christine know? Inside, the judge called for a short recess. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a family breaking apart. This was a family turning on itself. On national television, under oath. And the evidence was only just beginning to unfold. The courtroom had hardly calmed down from the prosecutor's flood of evidence when the judge nodded in the direction of the defense table. Miss Brown, he said, you can now present your rebuttal. Everyone looked to Meri. She rose slowly, smoothing imaginary dust from her skirt. Her movements were precise, deliberate, as if she'd spent weeks practicing for this very moment. Once hushed courts now hummed with whispers. Cameras zoomed in. Robyn sat across the aisle, visibly shaken. Kody's face was a picture of betrayal and disbelief. And Christine, ever the observer, narrowed her eyes like she was expecting a surprise twist. And it arrived. Meri's lawyer, Dana Rusk, a woman with razor-sharp presence and poise, headed towards the bench. Your Honor, what we have just seen was a rehearsed drama. The state showcased circumstantial evidence, unverified messages, and a thoroughly prejudiced witness, Miss Robyn Brown, who obviously has ulterior motives involving power, money, and revenge. The judge nodded. Make your case, Miss Rusk. She addressed the jury. Let's be precise. There is no footage of my client in possession of drugs. No forensic connection. No fingerprints on tablets. No evidence that those capsules didn't belong to someone else who was using the business name. What we do have is motive, just not Meri's. She clicked her laptop and the courtroom screen came to life once more. Let's discuss the true mastermind here. Robyn Brown gasps. The screen displayed internal financial records, highlighted in red circles. Several transactions, marked as vendor payments from the Brown Family Essentials account, were tracked to a private firm, Riverlight Consulting, LLC, owned by Robyn Brown. Dana went on. Riverlight Consulting is not an actual consulting firm. It's a shell company set up 6 months ago. The funds, more than $83,000, were routed through it. Robyn signed off on each transfer. The jury leaned in. And do you know who didn't have access to those funds during that period? Dana asked, walking back and forth. Meri Brown. She stopped before the jury. This was not drug smuggling. This was a classic scam. Robyn laundered money. Robyn purchased untraceable goods. Robyn used Meri's name, a name with trust, family and fan devotion attached to it. And then when things got hot, she blamed the whole operation on her co-wife. Robyn jumped up out of her seat. That's a lie. I never even touched her accounts. The judge slammed the gavel. You'll remain silent unless called to the stand again, Miss Brown. Robyn sat down, face red with fury. Meri remained still, her expression carefully neutral. But there was a fire in her eyes now. The fire of someone finally fighting back after years of being pushed aside. Dana continued. Miss Robyn Brown also had access to warehouse codes, vendor contact information, and packaging supplies. Surveillance video is nothing, unless it is dated and authenticated correctly. And up to now, that has not been done. And then there was the bombshell. Dana submitted an affidavit, one signed by a former employee at the printing firm that created the Brown Family Essentials labels. This individual confirms that in December, Robyn herself ordered 2,000 custom labels marked Natural Energy Blend, and requested the order be billed under Meri's name, not hers. More gasps. Dana's voice hardened. Your Honor, these aren't the actions of a concerned business partner. These are the actions of someone orchestrating a cover-up. And now she's using the courtroom to destroy the only person left who might expose her. Meri finally moved up to the stand. She set her hand on the Bible, swore her oath, and sat back up straight. Dana moved cautiously. Miss Brown, how long have you known Robyn? 14 years. Have you ever had control over the financial accounts of the family? Not since 2018. Do you have access to the primary inventory warehouse? Not without someone else's code. That changed in late 2023, when I moved out of day-to-day operations. Did you ever ship out unlabeled boxes, or get involved in midnight deliveries? No, never. That's not my writing on those labels. Why do you think Robyn is bringing this accusation against you? Meri paused, and then gazed directly at Robyn. Because I know what she is hiding. And I think she knew, sooner or later, I'd come forward. The courtroom fell silent. Defense then threw a surprise punch. A tape-recorded voicemail, left on Meri's phone just days earlier. You think you're so smart. Robyn's venomous voice crackled over the speakers. You have no idea what I've had to do to keep this family's name respectable. Don't test me, Meri. I swear I'll ruin you. The jury winced. Journalists' jaws hung open. Even the judge looked shocked. Robyn's lawyer protested angrily. Your Honor, we haven't authenticated the voice. The judge raised a hand. We'll permit voice analysis prior to ultimate admission. But if that is her voice, we might be looking at something much bigger than drug smuggling. Kody was shaking now. He glanced from Meri to Robyn, the two women who had once occupied his home, his children, his aspirations. Now they glared at one another like angry strangers with everything on the line. Christine leaned to Janelle and whispered, She's telling the truth. I know. Robyn's trapped. Janelle nodded. This isn't merely a case. This is everything coming undone. Meri's testimony went on. I was by myself for years, she stated. The show made me seem remote, and perhaps I was. But I never hurt my family. I never used our name to get ahead and commit a crime. Her voice broke. Barely. I'm not flawless. But I'm not a felon. And if Robyn wants to ruin my life, she'd better bring more than photoshopped screens and out-of-focus warehouse shots. She addressed the jury. Because the truth, no matter how long it's buried, always comes out. The judge requested recess. But the courtroom exploded as soon as the gavel came down. The media burst outside to crack the surprise. Meri had turned the story around. She was no longer the suspect. She was the victim of a years-long betrayal. Inside, Robyn sat still, face ghostly pale, lips compressed into a tight line. She spoke in a low whisper to her attorney, who was also deeply worried. Outside the courthouse, there were fans waiting with signs #justice for Meri #Robyn lied #sister wives. Truth. This wasn't merely a court battle anymore. This was a battle for truth, for reputation, and all the things the Brown family ever tried to be. And as the trial continued, one thing was becoming evident. Meri Brown wasn't only struggling to clear her name, she was struggling to be heard at last. The courtroom doors creaked shut as the judge came back to the bench. Recess was over, but the tension had not dissipated. If anything, it had grown denser. A stifling haze of secrets, deceptions, and unasked questions. Everyone in the room knew what was about to happen. The court calls. Kody Brown. There was a murmuration in the gallery. Fans leaned forward. Reporters straightened up, pen poised. Even the jury leaned forward, anticipating. Kody strolled slowly to the stand. His skin was pale, creased with confusion, remorse, and unmistakably terror. He lifted his right hand, pledged to tell the truth, and sat. This was the man who had boasted of constructing a kingdom, a spiritual husband, a father of 18, a reality TV legend. But today, Kody Brown was just another witness in a courthouse, where his whole family dynasty was falling apart in front of the public. Mr. Brown, how long have you known the defendant, Meri Brown? Kody fidgeted. 30 years. And your relationship? He paused. We were married, then spiritually joined, now, estranged. And Miss Robyn Brown? Kody sighed. She's my legal wife. The room changed. It wasn't the words. It was the way he used them. Detached, guarded, like someone suddenly uncertain where his allegiance lay. The prosecutor stepped closer. Mr. Brown, were you ever informed of drug activity going on under your family business? No. Did you ever get money, see packaging, or hear talk that indicated illegal distribution? No. Ever. And when Robyn approached you about this, what did you tell her? Kody's jaw tightened. I told her to call the police if she really believed it. The gallery buzzed. Robyn sat up, shocked. You told me it would ruin us, she shouted. You said to keep it internal. The judge slammed the gavel. Miss Brown, sit down. Any further interruptions and you'll be removed. Robyn slumped back into her seat. Kody rubbed his face. I didn't say don't report it. I said, I was in shock. We were breaking up anyway. I didn't want the show to end on criminal charges. I wanted to work things out. The defense got a turn next. Meri's attorney, Dana, stood with quiet strength. Mr. Brown, you deny any knowledge of drug activity. But did you know that Miss Robyn Brown was making personal bank transfers on the business account? No. Did you know she opened a shell company in her name? No. Would you say Robyn is financially transparent? Kody paused. She takes care of a lot of things. I trusted her to get it right. And did you ever take back Meri's access to family money? Not technically. But she wasn't involved for a long time. Was that because she chose that, or because of Robyn's influence? The question lingered. Kody glanced at Robyn, then back down at the ground. I don't know anymore. Silence. Christine put her hand over her mouth. Janelle recoiled in her seat as if someone had punched her in the chest. Dana pushed her harder. Do you think Meri would be able to run a multi-state drug ring? Kody's face dropped. No, he said. I don't. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Dana slowly turned to the jury. Then why is she here? That was a question that would be repeated long after Kody walked down. But the trial had one more surprise in store for the Brown family. The judge cleared his throat. The court would now like to hear from a supplemental witness called for by both the prosecution and defense. Christine Brown. The courtroom straightened in their seats. Christine rose slowly, moving with quiet power to the stand. Her red blouse was a bold splash of color in a gray sea. She lifted her right hand, took the oath, and sat. Miss Brown, the prosecutor started. In your opinion, is Meri Brown guilty? Christine scanned the courtroom. At Robyn, at Kody, at Meri. I think Meri has done wrong. I've sensed her iciness. I've felt the sting of her words. But drugs? Smuggling? She shook her head. No, that's not her. And Robyn? Christine hesitated. Robyn is strategic.
Always has been. And I've watched her orchestrate things behind the scenes. So yes, I think she can turn people against each other, including Meri. The prosecution attempted to change the atmosphere. You're emotionally invested. Couldn't this just be old jealousy? Christine chuckled bitterly. You think I'd lie under oath just to settle a grudge? No. What I'm saying is, this family was broken by lies, favoritism, and fear. Robyn didn't just walk in and love Kody. She came in and took control. That struck deep. Robyn folded her arms tightly, lips trembling. Next, Janelle took the stand. Calm, rational, honest. I looked on from the outside, she replied. And Robyn managed the books for years. She changed passwords. She cut us off. And Meri was depressed, isolated. But she wasn't criminal. She craved connection, not destruction. She hardly left her in most weeks. The defense concluded. The judge sat quietly for a moment, shuffling papers, breathing slowly. Then suddenly he spoke to all four sister wives at once. This court has never seen anything like this. Not just the legal claims, but the emotional implosion of a very public family. He looked at Meri, then Robyn, then Kody. This trial is not about personalities. It's about facts. But the lines between your lives and your business have blurred so badly, it's become nearly impossible to separate truth from trauma. Suddenly Meri stood up. She didn't wait for permission. Your Honor, may I say something? He paused, then nodded. This trial isn't about what I did or didn't do. It's about what years of silence and isolation and favoritism have done to all of us. We've been broken for so long. But I'll be damned if I let that brokenness define me. She moved in the direction of Robyn. By calling me a smuggler. But come on. You just didn't want to admit what you were doing behind closed doors. You betrayed me, Robyn. And you did it with the same smile you always put on when the cameras are in front of you. Robyn rose to her feet, tears streaming down her face. You pushed me out. You resented that Kody loved me. No, Meri cried, voice escalating. I resented that you lied as if you didn't. I resented that you smiled while cutting all of us off from him. Kody attempted to step in. This is not helping. That's the point. Meri snapped. We've all spent years not helping, not speaking, not defending each other when it counted. And now we're here, in court, fighting over lies that started with fear and ended with greed. The judge banged the gavel again. Enough. This trial will resume tomorrow with closing arguments. Court is adjourned. As the gavel hit the bench, the family stayed frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. Four sister wives, one shattered husband, and the truth in the wings, ready to blow. The morning light dawned over Flagstaff like a spotlight, illuminating the courthouse steps with long shadows.
Out on the street, the sidewalk was filled with reporters, cameras, and fans holding up signs that read #Justice for Meri, #Expose Robyn, and even #Free the Truth. In Courtroom B, the last day had finally come. The jury had returned. The air was charged. Explosive. A single spark from total ignition. Meri Brown sat at the defense table. Posture stiff, hands clasped together in front of her like a woman willing to accept anything but deception. Her jaw clenched, eyes red but brazen. Across from her, Robyn Brown sat motionless, white, nervously twitching. Her lips formed words, silently praying, or maybe begging the reflection of herself she had spent so long peddling to the world. Kody sat by himself, no longer beside Robyn, not beside Meri, just alone, face gaunt, hands clasped as if hanging on to the last threads of something he could not define. The judge walked in, nodded once, and spoke to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, has the jury reached a verdict? The forewoman, a 50-year-old woman with piercing blue eyes, stood up. We have your honor. The room held its breath. The stillness was intolerable. On the charge of drug trafficking and conspiracy to sell illegal drugs under the business name Brown Family Essentials, we find the defendant, Meri Brown. A moment of pause. Not guilty, Meri closed her eyes. Her attorney released a barely audible gasp of relief. A few hiccups were heard in the gallery. Christine gripped Janelle's hand. Kody hung his head, but the forewoman wasn't finished. However, the jury also suggests that the court investigate Robyn Brown for her role in fraudulent financial practice, tampering with documents, and potential obstruction of justice. A room-wide gasp enveloped the space. Robyn's mouth went open. but nothing emerged. The judge appeared visibly taken aback. "Thank you, jurors. This court accepts your suggestion." He glared at Robyn. "Miss Brown, you are not currently charged with a crime. But because of overwhelming circumstantial evidence and numerous witness accounts, this court is making an immediate directive to initiate a formal inquiry into your financial transactions involving Brown family essentials." Robyn's face flooded with panic. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. Meri stood. For the first time in years, she did not appear to be the ghost of a woman in the background. She appeared to be someone who had struggled and prevailed. She glided slowly past Robyn. Stopped. Then, in a cold and quiet tone, she spoke. "One of us is leaving here a free woman. The other never will. Not from here." Robyn did not answer. She simply gazed ahead, eyes frozen with shock. Meri walked directly into the arms of Christine and Janelle. The three women hugged tightly, silently, like soldiers who'd lived through the final battle of a long war. Kody stood back. No one grabbed for him. Not this time. Outside, Meri stood before the press. Flashes burst, microphones were thrust into her face. "Meri, were you actually framed by your own sister wife? Is it the end of sister wives? Now what is going to happen to the Brown family?" She held up her hand to quiet them. And then quietly but firmly, she spoke. "This was never about drugs. This was about years of control, silence, and manipulation. The truth hurts, but the truth also frees. I didn't smuggle anything, but I did carry the weight of lies for far too long, and I won't anymore." And with that, she descended the stairs. Every step shook like thunder. Inside, Robyn sat alone. Kody walked towards her quietly. "Robyn," she spun to him, mascara running down her face. "You think don't you?" He paused. "I think you've kept things from me. And I don't know if any of what we had is even real anymore." Robyn clutched his hand. "I did this for the family. To keep what we had safe. Don't let them turn you against me." Kody withdrew his hand slowly. "You turned me against myself." And then he left. A month later, TLC issued a statement. "After 18 seasons, Sister Wives will not return for another season. We respect the privacy of all members of the Brown family during this time." Social media imploded. Clips from the trial went viral. Fans created timelines, theory threads, even documentaries called The Robyn Chronicles and Meri's Revenge. Robyn was subpoenaed. Investigators started digging into her finances. Meanwhile, Meri quietly went back to Utah, reopened her inn, and began a podcast called Unfiltered, where she talked, unapologetically, about trauma, healing, and truth. One of her opening episodes started like this. "They tried to break me. Not with fists, with silence, with guilt, with exclusion. But I survived. And now I speak." Christine and Janelle appeared with her on episode 3. Their relationship, closer than ever. As for Kody, he stayed largely out of the limelight, no longer a head of a family, mere mortal, just wondering how he lost it. All, not to time, but to the truth. Meri was found not guilty. Robyn is under financial investigation. The Brown family is no more. Sometimes truth destroys before it heals.